Mongolia program that we are developing at the moment. Let me also say thanks to the organizers of this conference. I am very impressed that this conference is part of a week-long set of activity that brings people together around the topic and the activities of innovation and entrepreneurship. Around the table here are many experts who have researched the process of innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm very grateful that you invited me, even though I'm not an expert on innovation or entrepreneurship. My role at MIT is I work in MIT's foreign ministry, and I help MIT to develop international contacts, international collaborations, and I am here in that regard. So all I can do is, in my next 20 minutes, to talk a little bit about MIT. So that's what I know best, and what I want to do is just present a few ideas and a few observations about how MIT undertakes entrepreneurship and innovation, and give you some of the best practices that we found are very important for successful entrepreneurship and innovation. So my talk will have 5 parts. I just want to present you with some key data very briefly about MIT. I want to just say a word about the concept of innovation as it applies to my presentation here. And then spend a few minutes on the MIT innovation ecosystem. I will then choose one specific program that we think is very important for our students, for our professors, to help us to move innovation along. The MIT Deshpande Center for Technological Innovation. And then finally, a few ideas about entrepreneurship education at MIT. MIT was founded in 1861 and is a private independent research university. The motto that you see in our insignium is very important: mens et manus, mind and hand. MIT has never been an ivory tower university. From the start, right from the start, we were founded to find solutions to problems, in the world. We always worked very closely with industry, with governments, and this ethos is really what pervades all that we are doing even today. Out of this mens and manus idea comes a very strong educational philosophy, and that is learning by doing. Our students are involved in experiments, in labs, right from the start as undergraduates when they attend MIT. We are not a very large university. As you can see, about 11,300 students. We have 4,500 undergraduate students, very small. Noteworthy maybe that 46% of our undergraduates are women, 10% are international students. Because we are a research university, we have more graduate students, 6,800, 32% women, 42% of those are international students. We have a core faculty of about 1,020 professors, also then about 780 research staff. And it might be again of interest to you that 42% of our faculty was not born in the United States. So we try to attract the best talent wherever they are, and we are very proud to have a very international, not only student body, but also a very international faculty. We have a very large number of research staff and scientists. The numbers are partly so high because we also manage the Lincoln Lab, which is outside Boston, and it's a large defense-related research lab with almost 4,000 people. But MIT contractually, from the Department of Defense, manages this lab. We have 5 schools, as you can see. Engineering, science, we have a School of Business, also a School of Architecture and Planning, and a School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Science. But the actual research at MIT is going on in over 30 interdisciplinary labs and centers. So the departments, they hire the professors, they organize the curriculum for the students. But the research is always been done in centers. And those centers always consists of professors from different departments, even from different schools. Some of the largest laboratories and centers, there's the Research Laboratory for Electronics. CSAIL is very famous. The New Koch Center for Integrative Cancer Research. For example, half of the people in these research centers are actually, in the cancer research centers are actually engineers, because the real breakthroughs in cancer are nowadays happening between biology, computer science, and engineering. We have the Media Lab and a new facility under construction, the MIT Nano Lab, to perform experiments on the nanoscale. Just as a word about how we measure our impact. We have 81 present and former Nobel Prize winners who have been, were either on our staff and our faculty, have been our faculty or have been our students. 9 of those teach at the moment at MIT. But maybe more important is a study that was done in 2009. And this very much speaks to the topic of entrepreneurship and innovation. MIT graduates have started over 26,000 companies. They employ over 3.3 million people. And if you would put these activities all together, those MIT companies would constitute the 11th largest economy in the world. So this is for us a measure how MIT has impact in the world. Now, a very quick word about how I will talk about innovation and entrepreneurship. Many of you are involved on the right side, studying, researching how innovation and entrepreneurship unfolds, what are the conditions for successful entrepreneurship and innovation. My talk is more on the left. I just wanted to give you a few examples how the practice of innovation is being fostered at MIT and what types of programs we have to do that. And as you can see on these photos, entrepreneurship innovation at MIT takes place in many different parts of the world. Not just in high-tech companies, but also in new technologies for the developing world, as this photo on the left indicates. Many of you know this, but just to confirm, if innovation and entrepreneurship should be successful, those 5 actors have to work together. A lot of research is being done, of course, also by some of the people in the audience about the importance of cluster, but just to reinforce this, those 5 actors have to work together. The research universities, the entrepreneurs, who often come out of these research universities, the government agencies, but also large companies. Entrepreneurship, young entrepreneurs and large companies have an important relationship with each other. And large companies have to be part of the innovative and entrepreneurial process. And then, of course, you need to have banks, you need to have people in the venture capital business who knows how to manage risk, who knows how to invest in young startup companies. to give you now, again, very concretely, a sense of how does this work at MIT. And as you can see, MIT has been so successful, not just because it's standing on its own, but because there are other research universities in the city, in the location, be it Harvard, Boston University, Boston College, Northeastern. So there's a whole range. Secondly, there are many, many research and development labs of large companies, especially now lately biotech companies, life science companies. They all have research labs just around MIT. And I will show you just a little map to bring this home. We have many venture capitalists in the city, but we also, at MIT, provide all types of programs that bring entrepreneurs or people with ideas together, that help those people. That's the Deshpande Center or the MIT Entrepreneurship Center, the Venture Mentoring Service, and others. We have also incubators right around the corner, the Cambridge Innovation Center, and also other places. So you have to have these types of organization in place if you want to have successful entrepreneurship innovation. Just to show you the density of this is just for the life sciences. You see all the large life science companies, be it Sanofi, be it Millennium, Genzyme, have research labs in the area. Just to show you, this here is the MIT campus here. This is the MIT campus. And you see surrounding the campus, all these companies have their facilities. All these venture capitalists are all clustered just right around our campus here, and these people talk to each other on a daily basis. This is the reason why MIT and why Boston and Cambridge has such an innovative culture. So let's go to MIT itself. And I just want to talk to you for a minute about a few of the programs that we have internally at MIT. I will talk a bit more here about the Deshpande Center, but these here are the different stages. People have inspiration, they have ideas. They have to have someone who basically tells them, well, this could be an answer to the question that the market has, a demand that is there, a service or product that a company might need, a large company, or in industrial sector, or commercial sector. Then you need to put a plan together that moves the idea into an actual commercial product. You need to have a business plan, and then you need to have support to actually start your company, grow your company, and then maybe this company then further grows into a mid-sized operation. So, to inspire people to foster creativity, we have all kinds of prizes here and competitions in which our students participate. We have the Technology Licensing Office that helps our students and faculty with the entire legal side of things, with the IP, with the intellectual property, with patents, and so on. We also then have, in the later stages, organizations that help with funding and financing a startup company. Again, do you see all these different organizations. They are right on campus. You know, the Entrepreneurship Center, here's our business school, the Deshpande Center is here, we'll talk about this. We have also, the departments are very active, especially material science and engineering, with helping students to turn ideas into an invention and into a product. D-Lab is a special organization that develops products for the market in the developing world, which is, has its own dynamics, but is equally very important and attracts a lot of our students. I mentioned the Technology and Licensing Office. Students can try out products in the hobby shop. We have a very strong sense, try it out, build a prototype. So we have all kinds of facilities here. Let me talk now for a minute about the Deshpande Center for Technological Innovation. This center was founded to leverage all the ideas that MIT students and MIT faculty have and move these innovations in the field of science and engineering into the commercial world. The center was established in 2002 and by now has funded over 100 projects with $12 million in grants. And we'll talk about these grants a little later. In total, the center has attracted about 28 startup companies with over $450 million in venture financing. Now, many projects have failed. Failure is a normal part of the entrepreneurial landscape. Why? Often not because the idea was not great, but to have a good idea and to figure out, is there a market for this idea, is another question. Also, even if there are markets, can we scale up the idea, and is it actually cost efficient, or will the product be simply too expensive? A lot of ideas are ahead of their times, and the market is simply not ready to embrace a very bold new product. So it's often not that the idea wasn't good, but many other factors that down the road come about and ultimately then lead that a project may not succeed. But when companies do succeed, in the Deshpande Center, there were 2 ventures by now acquired for a total of $300 million. The faculty was also able to get further research connected to a product. And as you can see, the center has involved many different participants, faculty, venture capitalists and entrepreneurs, and a total of over 400 jobs were created through those successful startup companies. Now, again, the purpose of the center is, there are a lot of interesting ideas out there at MIT. So there's scientific knowledge. But then there needs to be translated into, there needs to be discussion with someone who knows the market and say, yes, this idea actually serves a need in the market. So there is always a huge gap between a researcher and the market. Everywhere in the world, outside MIT. MIT is no different in that way. I mean, researchers are not necessarily business people. So you have to create a forum where those people can come together. So, at the one hand, the Deshpande Center stimulates this internal ecosystem, but also that brings people from outside together with students and with researchers. The key thing is, and what the Deshpande Center helps to achieve, is ultimately to build a team. The team usually includes the inventor, the student, the professor, who is often a researcher or an engineer, and it includes a business person, and it includes someone who can translate and can take leadership to actually move a company into the commercial sector. Creating those teams is the most crucial aspect. And to have leadership and have a good team together. A business person alone is not enough. A researcher or a scientist alone is not enough either. So, how does the Deshpande Center helps to foster these value chain from idea to innovation? So, people at MIT in the different labs who have an idea, they can apply for a grant to basically put the idea into some kind of proof of concept, into a product. If it turns out that this may really hold promise, they are given an innovation grant. So again, this money will help them to better connect them with the commercial sector. And as you can see, the Deshpande Center helps to select. It also tells people, well, it's a great idea, but there's no market for it. Or it says, there's an idea, work further. It directs people in the right direction and it connects them with venture capital, with large companies, with the government, and so on. So, my last part is about education and the entrepreneurial mind. MIT is very proud to be known for its entrepreneurial spirit, and people come from around the world and study us and ask, how do you do this? So just to give you a number, 50% of our graduates in 2014 work in companies that they started themselves. That is an enormous number. And it's up from 1% just in 2006. So this drive to start your own company has been increasing over the last few years, and it's really one of the highlights of MIT. And organizations like the Deshpande Center and many others help students to start their companies. But you need a certain entrepreneurial mind, a certain entrepreneurial spirit. You need to educate students. Not everybody is a born entrepreneur. And I'm just finishing my presentation by telling you a little bit what are the key aspects to instill in the education. This is what we learned at MIT. Entrepreneurs have to try out things. Again, the learning by doing aspect is very important to create this entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurial mind. Obviously, you all know this, but I just want to also repeat this. You have to create a culture where someone can take a risk and someone can fail. If you don't have that, people will not try. So we have this spaces at MIT where you can try out and you can fail. But everybody is basically proud that you did try out your idea. You have to have people who question the existing paradigm. Entrepreneurs are people who say, hey, I have a better idea. I have a better product. I have a solution. Nobody has thought about this. I see a need, and I will go forward and turn my idea into a product. We also feel entrepreneurs should have a pretty broad-based education. Because as I mentioned, people who are innovative and entrepreneurial, they know how to talk to other people. So that means one should have a curriculum, for example, that is flexible, that allows an engineer also to take a couple business courses, that allows a business major to take basic courses in product design and understand how this product design, how engineering is actually being done. Obviously, you need to have a very strong collaboration across departments and schools. Entrepreneurship is only possible at innovation if the business schools, the engineering schools, and the science schools work together on this. We also feel professors are role models. if professors are entrepreneurs. By the way, if professors tell students, I have failed, I tried this and it didn't work for reason A, B, C, then students will follow. They will then also see encouragement from the role of professors and also alumni. MIT has many successful alumni who have been entrepreneurs, and they are on campus all the time. And they are encouraging our young students. So, I want to finish with the last slide that says, so, okay, what are the concrete examples? So, I think in order to have an entrepreneurial, educational mind, to have an entrepreneurial atmosphere at a university, you should have a broad range of curricular and extracurricular activities. And I just want to give you a list what we do at MIT and what in our experience works. Obviously, there are many courses on entrepreneurship itself, academic courses on innovation and entrepreneurship. We feel that internships are very important so that students learn how companies and also startups, how they work. So we provide a lot of students with internships, not just in the United States, but also abroad. Business competitions. People should try out their ideas, compete, just see what others say. It's a low-risk type of engagement, and it fosters the creativity of students. Try it out. Let's put our project into this competition. This is an important part. We have a leadership program for our engineering students. Entrepreneurship is about people and leadership, and that needs to be trained. Even our MIT students, who are among the best and brightest, they undergo this leadership program, and they want to do this because they do know there are certain things they have to learn. Finally, you have to have an entrepreneurship center that offers a lot of workshops. This is the Martin Trust Center for us. We feel also entrepreneurship is not only taking place in the developed countries, but is an important solution for all developing countries. MIT has an especially strong program for entrepreneurship at the development land. This is the T-Lab. And then finally, give students spaces where they can try out. There's a whole movement in the United States called the Makerspace movement. Have students tinker around with something, have them produce something, try something out. We feel that fosters the entrepreneurial mind of the student and gives a room for their creativity. I hope I'm within the time. I want to thank you for your attention. And again, I want to congratulate you for putting this conference on, and we at MIT will be delighted to work with you.
Thank you, Dr. Bernd Wietek, for his interesting and very useful presentation. Now, I would like to invite our next keynote speaker. Our next keynote speaker is Professor and Dr. Bert-Jan Klips. He is from World Technopolis Association. His topic is entrepreneurship and technology-based regional development. I would really appreciate it if you keep your time, and thank you for your cooperation.
Good morning, everyone. This is the third time that you have heard from me this week. I hope you're not tired of me. But I can promise something different this morning. The past 2 days we talked about issues and challenges, and this morning I'd like to give some indication of what is the road ahead of you. I thought that the presentation we just heard was terrifically helpful, and I learned a lot about what happens at the micro level. I want to talk on a more macro level about the regional development, about And of course, as I've said the last couple of days, I believe the action in innovation and entrepreneurship happens in metropolitan regions, not necessarily in large countries. Things have to start somewhere, and you can only get the kind of concentrated entrepreneurial support mechanisms that Professor Whitting just described in a compact geographical area. So the wealth will eventually benefit the rest of the country, but a sure way to make sure that nothing happens is to try to spread the dollars equally across all the provinces, because then they will be absorbed without beneficial action. We'll have to designate a few growth poles and concentrate the innovation efforts in them. All the concepts, many of the concepts you can see we're talking about an interdisciplinary and very multidimensional process when we talk about regional innovation systems. Now, it's been my good fortune to have lived in several of the most active such centers in the world. I've been 26 years in Austin, Texas, and was participant, and I made modest contributions to Austin's transformation from a sleepy little college town and state capital to the world-famous Technopolis that it is today. I lived in Portland, Oregon, where we grew the clusters in flat panel displays and clothing. Many of you are wearing Columbia sportswear and Nike. And also in San Diego, California, which is the world's premier life sciences cluster. I was there for 5 years, 9 years in Oregon. And I've just spent 3 years in Songdo in South Korea, which is another new high-tech city. So I want to talk a little bit about Technopolis and clusters and make sure that we have our definitions clear. And then go on to a cluster maturity model that can show us what we need to aspire to in the long run. And go back to something that I mentioned on a previous day, which was choosing a role model against which to benchmark your own city's progress. I think we won't have time to cover 5, 6, and 7 there. So when the government invests in innovation, what is it that they expect in return? I've been using the word valorization as an alternative to commercialization because innovations arrive at the target markets that they benefit, not necessarily through business commercial channels. Governments, the military, NGOs, all of these sectors and kinds of organizations can bring innovation to the people that the innovation is intended to benefit. So anyway, every city wants to create jobs. And so the idea is create companies that will provide jobs. You want to collect taxes from these successful companies and from their employees as income taxes or property taxes. You want to generate even more educational opportunities for people and get more efficient economic development programs. I say that we'll see that when we talk about clusters, the value to a city of a cluster is that it reduces your economic development marketing costs. New companies come to your city not because you've paid them to come here, but because of the other companies in their industry that are already here. So it costs you little or nothing to get, after you've reached that critical mass, costs little or nothing to get additional companies here. All right, and then of course, beneficial products. And I do believe that Mongolia will need to concentrate from the start on export markets. Okay, sometimes there's a success and valorization and sometimes a failure. For all that Austin, Texas is globally celebrated as a technology innovation growth pole, we have had failures. The Microelectronics and Computer Consortium was extremely high profile R&D consortium located in Austin. Austin provided a lot of incentives to get MCC there, and ultimately MCC failed. It was not a failure for Austin because the PR value, the public relations value was huge, and it really did help to push Austin farther along its path. But the reason MCC folded up, aside from the collapse of the Japanese economy, and MCC was intended to defend America's innovation capacity against the then surging imports from Japan. But there was no product development. It was purely R&D. And in contrast, you have the Hsinchu Science-Based Industrial Park in Taiwan that concentrated on manufacturing and product development from the start, and it has been very successful. So, yes, do make your science parks product-oriented. This is a rather conventional list of things to measure as you go along. How many, and you've seen the list from MIT. The reason I say conventional is that we don't yet really know how to measure the success of an innovation system. And the reason is because it is a system. There are interactions among the elements that are emergent. And we don't know what they're going to be, and so we can't set out in advance to measure them. Because a regional innovation system is a complex system, there are time lags between causes and effects, and we do not yet know what those time lags are. So the science of measuring the success of innovative regions is still in its infancy, and although we can measure these things, we could easily fall prey to the problem of measuring the wrong things. Or I think many of you know the story about the drunk man who was on the sidewalk under the street lamp and said he lost his car keys, and but he really lost them on the dark corner, but he's looking because the light is better in the middle of the block. So let's not fall prey to looking where the answers are not simply because the measurement is easier. An example of an innovation corridor in Malaysia and the things that they're tracking, and actually that multimedia corridor has not been successful, and I think they were measuring the wrong things. I applaud the impulse to measure, but they measured the wrong things. We also think that they were relying on a life cycle model. So let me now focus in on that idea. Well, here's another problem with measurement, that you don't get continuity unless there's some kind of political continuity. You know, at the ministries, at the presidential level, at the level of the individual science park directors, and so on. In our consulting projects, we found that it's best to start with mapping, and it's lucky that there's so much free software out there now for network mapping and network analysis. We can measure what labs are collaborating with other labs, what patents cite other patents, what papers are co-authored with people from what other laboratory, and which papers cite which other papers. This helps us to understand where we can best leverage our own local talents and to determine who we should prioritize as R&D partners for our effort. So we start with mapping. Here are some examples of the should the goal be cluster building? Oh, I'm sorry. These slides don't seem to be in order. Okay, let's do this. Let's concentrate on some definitions and then come back to the question of cluster building. The term technopolis is used in two different contexts. One is what I call the small technopolis, which means a science park or a new city, like Tsukuba in Japan or even Brasilia, brand new cities, purpose-built. Big technopolis, on the other hand, is a term that applies to places like Austin, Silicon Valley, Seattle, Washington, because it's an existing city, but the major part of its income comes from innovative technology companies. There's a widespread appreciation and knowledge on the part of the population of the city that technology is the side of the bread where the butter is, that's what benefits them, and that everybody, the electorate wants to see more growth in technology innovation. There's a high level of entrepreneurship. So this is big technopolis. Okay, now a cluster is a collection of firms in closely related industries. They're located close to each other. It includes suppliers, customers, competitors, too. Okay, there's a very efficient value chain, a dense web, as I say here, of designer-supplier and manufacturer relationships. Now, we've talked in the last couple of days about whether Mongolia should take a large company strategy or a small company strategy, and both are possible. But the cluster theory says that an industry cluster must have one anchor firm, and that must be a fairly large company that is already active in exporting and can attract supplier companies to the area. So if you are to choose an area to try to build a cluster, it should be an area where you can make sure that there is such an anchor company. It does not have to be an indigenous company. The foreign firm establishes a large operation here, and you believe that it's going to be stable, sustainable, you can use a foreign company as an anchor for a cluster. All right, the benefit then is that there's informal knowledge exchange amongst the employees. Nothing illegal. This is just bar talk and the chats that people have after church. It's all completely legal, but it's called knowledge spillover. And it causes the general level of knowledge of the workforce to rise. And it means that companies can easily find employees who are already somewhat familiar with the way the industry works. And it also means that this informal talk can give people ideas to start new companies. So the knowledge spillover that comes from cluster formation is a spur to entrepreneurship. Okay, clusters may arise spontaneously or by design, but I work with many locations that are trying to create clusters from nothing. It is possible, it's very difficult, but it's a role for government to decide exactly what incentives are going to have the highest leverage. In other terminology, we have the triple helix, which is government, industry, academic cooperation, which again raises the complexity and the difficulty of measurement, but it does mean that there is a lock-in. And lock-in means not only is it easier to attract a company when you've achieved the critical mass of a cluster, but that the cluster of the city, the location, is stickier. Once the company is there, it's far less likely to leave again. Now, under globalization, companies are very mobile. They don't hesitate to pick up stakes and move to somewhere else if they have the good convergence clusters, and microclusters, which are also sometimes called proto-clusters or wannabe clusters. And these are the kinds I'm talking about that regions such as yours need to figure out how to encourage. There's superclusters, and I think we've achieved in Austin, Texas, this digital convergence supercluster because we first concentrated on the software industry, then made connection with the music scene in Austin and the recording technology and the music duplication and pressing technology back in the days of CDs. And then made connection further with the gaming industry, which is also strong in Austin, and so on and so on. So we have a very sustainable multi-industry cluster now there. So clusters mean location is attractive to educated workers, and by means of having better universities, you're creating more informed workers. You have efficient supply chains and value chains, but and this is important for industry, but from the government point of view, what's important to you is the lock-in. Making the region sticky so the companies don't easily go away, and making the region attractive so that you don't have to pay companies to come here. They come here because of the benefits they know they will get from the cluster. Okay? This is basically saying the same thing. Companies will come because other companies are here, not because of your economic development programs. So with critical mass cluster, you can reduce or eliminate the cost of recruiting companies in your region. Okay, now, certainly it's true. The clusters are born and they grow and they die. We call this the life cycle model, but actually it's not very helpful just to know that they're born and grow and die. The major question is how do you get from the birth to the growth stage? And the life cycle theory has very little to say about that. So I would like to instead propose a maturity model where, and there are alternate maturity models out there, but in the experience of my consulting, I think that this is the most reasonable one and useful one for you. The location may start with certain areas in the university that are very, very good, and that they may focus on that area as the area that is most likely to achieve both scientific advances and entrepreneurial startup companies. Then as the next stage, you may get to research parks, and then to incubators, and then to industry parks that are knowledge-based, something like the Hsinchu Park in Taiwan. You can then achieve the clusters and knowledge ecosystems, eventually the super clusters, and ultimately a technopolis like Austin, Seattle, or Silicon Valley. But I emphasize that you won't have Silicon Valley tomorrow. I went into detail about that before. Here are some reasons to move on from a life cycle model to a maturity model. Life cycle model is too simplistic and it doesn't tell you how. Let me just take a moment and show you this other document. We have 5 maturity levels in this model, and the dimensions that you can rate from our knowledge base, the industry infrastructure, the social capital, relational capital, institutional capital, and local quality of life, and access to finance. And here are the criteria that would allow you to rate your region on each of those. Now, I'm going to leave this document behind, and it's also freely downloadable from my company's website, generalinformatics.com. Now, back to the PowerPoint. university centers of excellence to the research parks, you'll need these things. And I will not have time to read each of these to you because my time slot is nearly finished. But of course, I'll leave the presentation behind for you. And each subsequent slide shows the key elements that the region will need to get to the next level. So this is a way, what level is Mongolia at now? Maybe between here and here. Okay, but these slides will show you a realistic path forward, not the only path forward. I hope you'll be creative and find your own, but this is one that you can use to start to form a vision of the future. And you know that you won't get to a desired future unless you have a strong vision of the future. So use this, and then you have the key elements that you need to progress up each stage in the maturity model. And when you get to the top of the mountain, keep climbing, because there's no time when it's okay to sit back and say, we did it, because other regions in the world are continuing to make progress, and there will always be competition. Okay, we need to balance the hardware, software, and humanware. So sorry, no time to go into detail. Okay, there's many other terms in high-tech economic development that are relevant here, but I really do think I loaded the wrong slide set, but this is mostly what I wanted to tell you in any case. All right, the Technopolis is different from the Technopolis Initiative because Technopolis is the desired outcome. It's an economic phenomenon. But the Technopolis Initiative is an organization, and it's the activities that make it happen. And it could take any one of these forms, okay, professional society, trade association, and so on. And the last thing that I'll want to tell you is that this is a process you go through to select your programs and process. Decide. Yeah, I think you should have a committee of people that are in the government, people that are in the university sector and business. Decide what you want as a top priority for the region. Okay? One of these things. Decide the organizational form that will serve that. Decide what kinds of programs will best lead to the desired outcome. These programs best serve. What skills and resources are needed to make those programs work? Which potential partners can bring you those skills and resources? And then you know how to partner. You can use that Technopolis maturity model that I showed you, the matrix, to figure out what level you're at. You can use the principles I talked about yesterday to choose a role model region, rate them, and then do the gap analysis. What's the difference between them and you, and what should you work on to get to the next level? Okay, I think I'd better stop here, but these are the principles, and this is the roadmap to get to a mature Technopolis. Best of luck, and thanks very much.
Thank you, Professor Fred Young Lips, for his meaningful presentation. Now we will have group photo and coffee break. The coffee break will continue for about 40 minutes. Thank you. We will have group photo here in front of the garbage, where Mongolian University of Science and Technology is described.